Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com, where music comes to life. And my guest today is one of the most recognized and admired voices in progressive rock and metal. He's probably best known for fronting the legendary Fates Warning, but he's about to release his second solo album called Two on June 9th. Please welcome Ray Alder. Welcome, Ray.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see
Yeah. Now, your first solo record, What the Water Wants, came out in 2019. You kept the same core together to record two. So, talk a little bit about who makes up that core band with you and what led you to bring that team back for this record.
you. Well, first, guitar player, songwriter is Michael Abdel, touring guitar player in Fates Warning, and friends now for 10 years. Tony Hernando is a guitar player for Lords of Black in Spain, and Craig Anderson, drummer from Ignite, who's having a resurrection, so to speak. The band, they have a new singer, and they're touring and did a new album, and they're doing. Craig's been a longtime friend of mine for well over 20 years, and when the first album came together, it was actually gonna just be Tony and myself, and then Tony got really busy with his band Lords of Black, and Mike actually just sent me an email and said, hey, I know you're working on a new solo album. He's like, let me know if you want me to write a couple of songs. And I said, yeah, that'd actually be great. So that's how Mike came aboard, um, and ended up being really great. All of them, and I knew I wanted Craig to play drums, so that's just how that worked out. And then with this one, I saw no reason to change. I thought those guys did such a great job, and I actually the very first album, I thought I would do the thing where you have multiple guest musicians, different songwriters, and but it ended up being like just logistically, it was a nightmare, and yeah, so I just figured I'd just work with just a couple of guys, and that worked out perfectly. So I figured there's no reason to change it on this one. So there
And
you go.
even though the team is the same, it's a very different record from the first one. Just
Hmm.
musically, it feels a little more complex. Lyrically, it's definitely emotionally heavier. The world's a very different place from when you recorded the first record in 2019. Did
Yeah.
that impact the tone of this one at all and make it a little deeper and a little heavier?
Maybe subconsciously, I'm not
Hmm.
sure, but I know that with the first one, I sort of wanted to distance myself from Fates and not. I mean, people are obviously going to recognize me from Fates Warning, but I wanted to do something that was different and show that I'm capable of doing different kind of music, songs and melodies and whatnot. And you take like song Crown of Thorns, which is completely different than anything Fates would ever do,
Yeah.
and that's what I wanted to do, just sort of create my own image, I guess, or put across this that I have a different image, and I think we did a good job with that. But I think with this one, we actually, I knew I wanted to be heavier. I wanted to sort of go back to my roots and have longer songs. I mean, I'm in a prog metal band. I have been for 30 years, and I feel there's no reason to run away from that. And it's how people recognize me. So with this one, yeah, I wanted to go back to my roots, longer songs, deeper sort of lyrics, and I just wanted it to be heavier and sort of darker in general. And I think we pulled that off pretty well. Well, Mike and Tony did a great job. So
Yeah,
yeah.
but and I think what really grabs me about both of your solo records, but this one too as well, is that, as you said, while it's unmistakably you, people are going to recognize you and your style, but it really doesn't sound like anything else you've done. Like, I don't think any of these songs could show up on a record from any of the other bands you've done.
Yeah.
When you write, lyrically, do you write for the project at hand? Do you say, okay, I'm going to write a solo record, or do you have a collection of lyrics that you draw from based on the music you're given?
I actually, it's funny. what I do is I listen to the music and I sort of I know how it sounds. It's very you know uh, what's the word here? My mind already. I've lived too long in another country. I forget how to speak English. But I, I don't want it to seem like, oh, look at me,
Mm,
lyrics. But I actually take from the music, and whatever the music makes me feel like, I think that is sort of where I want to go with the lyrics. Like, for
mm,
example, the first song that came out, This Hollow Shell, was very ominous and to me, and it had all these great vibes in it. Mike has this amazing ability to use his effects um, when he writes a song to sort of create this great atmosphere.
mhm.
And what I grabbed from that was sort of a an ominous sort of I guess not evil, but just something that wasn't very pleasant, and that's
Yeah,
where the lyrics for that
sinister.
stuff
Yeah,
came from. Yeah, very
yeah,
sinister, and
yeah.
that's kind of where the lyrics come from. It's sort of like an individual who is out for revenge, so to
Mhm,
speak. And yeah, so in every song is different. More upbeat
mhm,
ones, I think have more upbeat lyrics and things. But I never have a set plan. I
mhm,
think a lot of the times when I write lyrics, I just start to um, like when I write a melody, even with Fates, I'll just throw out just nonsense words and just to come up with the melody, and then sometimes I'll end up actually writing lyrics from those that nonsense. It sort of makes sense. Maybe it's some sort of subconscious thing going on, but a lot
mhm.
of times that works, and sometimes I just start writing lyrics as I'm writing the melody, and that works out as well. It just kind of depends on what the day is like, I guess.
Now, through your career, you've always kind of been a band guy, whether it's Fates Warning, Redemption, Engine, A to Z. But as an artist, is there something you get from doing a solo record that you may not get from being part of a band?
Well, I mean, I like being in a band. I like when decisions are made across the board. For me to do a solo album, it's a lot of work. It's just so much to deal with,
Mm,
producing and getting everything together, artwork, even finding a label.
yeah.
But I miss the camaraderie that goes along with being in a band.
Mhm,
Like with Fates, we've been friends forever, and um, to me that's more special. I mean, I like doing the solo things because I can just branch out and do whatever I want, and
mm,
there's no one to tell me any different. But yeah, I think I prefer being in a band. I'm
mhm.
just so used to it after all these years.
Well, and kind of looking back a bit through your career and those bands, I think most people first heard you naturally on the classic No Exit record from Fates. But how did you first come to join up with that band?
They actually played a show in San Antonio where I grew up and was living, and I was a big giant fan of Fates Warning.
Mm,
There was a DJ in San Antonio called The Godfather, Joe Anthony, and he would play the coolest music, man. He was like one of the first to ever play Triumph on the
mm,
radio in America and Rush, and he would just play these amazing bands, Merciful Fate and Fates Warning. He played on the radio, and it was great. And I became a fan of them. And they played in San Antonio, and I was with a band called Cyrus at the time, who had a manager named John. And anyway, so they played the show, and they went to our before I was in the band Cyrus. They went to Cyrus's rehearsal studio, and I was friends with all those guys. And Fates Warning went there for a friggin' barbecue, which is really funny. So I actually met the band that
mm,
day. It was really weird, and but John didn't go. So they would never do it nowadays. It was hilarious that it even happened back then. The people there ended up getting them to play some songs
mm,
in their rehearsal studio, and people stood up and sang. It was fucking hilarious. I didn't because I was so nervous. I said, "No,
yeah.
I'm not doing it." Anyway, so months later, John left the band, and the guys in Fates were asking around the country if anybody, knew of any singers, and they got a hold of John. And John, at that point, I was already in Cyrus, and John asked me if I wanted to audition, and I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And he said, "Okay, but you got to keep it a secret, man. Don't tell the guys in the band because
Hmm.
I'm the manager or whatever." And I said, "Oh well, okay, that's kind of weird, but okay." So I did this like secret audition tape, which was Quietus, and sent it to them, and they were like, "Yeah, this is great, but we already picked somebody else." And it was another guy from San Antonio, this guy named Chris Kronk. So I was a little disappointed, and then I guess I don't remember what the time frame was, a few months, weeks. They called me back and said, "Chris didn't work out. Can you come? Can you fly out?" Like, that's how that happened, and I said, "Okay." And I landed there, and we had lunch, and then we went to the studio, and they said, "Okay, let's see what you got." And I said, "Fuck, okay." And these guys are my heroes. So I was so nervous, and I was a kid, man. I was like 19 or 20, and then that was it. He said, "You got the gig. You have to live here now." I said, "What? I have to live in Connecticut?" Uh, yeah, that's how that worked out. That's,
Well, and that's actually right where I'm calling from as well. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I ended up living in Marlborough for a while, and then I moved to Newington,
Oh,
and then
wow.
yeah, and then I just said I missed Texas so much. I ended up going back and living in
Mm.
Texas. And that's when the band started, 'cause originally they were all from Connecticut. Everyone lived
Yeah.
there. Then everyone, got Mark in LA, Joey in LA, me in Texas. So there you go.
And as much as I am a massive Fates Warning fan, for me though, I think that one of your greatest vocal performances is on the track Sapphire from Redemption's Fullness of
Uh,
Time record. I mean, that song just blows me away. And in a band like that, where you're not doing the writing,
mhm.
is it a different approach you have to take? Do you have to kind of find yourself in someone else's lyrics before you could put a performance like that out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think again with that, it's like you kind of got to listen to the music, and with that, Nick was writing,
Mm,
all the melodies and everything, and of course, it was like, you do whatever you got to do. It's just a map, so to
mm,
speak. I said, okay, because to sing somebody else's melody exactly as they sing it is just weird to me. I would imagine so. 'Cause it's not something I would do.
mm,
I think differently. Not that that's good or bad,
yeah,
but yeah. I mean, and then just as a singer, I think 90% of your job is, well, let's say 50% is performance and 50% is uh, being able to emote
mm,
and relate with the lyrics. So yeah, it's uh,
mm.
it's not easy all the time. Put it that way.
And now, last year too, you put out a great record with the band A to Z that saw you reunite with former Fates Warning drummer Mark Zonder. How did you and Mark hook up again?
Mark actually called me one day, and being Mark Zonder, he's very business oriented, and he said, "Hey man, I got a business opportunity for you." I said, "Okay." I said, "What's the deal?" And he explained it to me and told me he was working with Viv Lalou um, uh, and geez, I forgot his name. I'm system Jupe
Mm,
Walters. Um, and he's, we have these songs, and it's kind of a throwback kind of thing. And I said, "Yeah, well, let me check out the tracks." And I love the music. I thought it was really cool. I really wanted to do it at that
mm,
point. So that's basically how that happened, and ended
mm,
up taking a lot longer than I thought it would. But in the
mm,
end, it was fun. It was I was able to like go back and um, sing like what I grew up on. I
mm,
was throwing a lot of old '70s sort of melodies out. To me, there were '70s things, and there's even a line in there that's like and I was singing it, and I wrote it, and I said that fucking reminds me of something. I can't get it out of my
mm,
head. I don't know what song that is. And then it popped in my head, and I looked it up, and I listened. I said, "Yeah, it's from a Peaches and Herb song." It was really funny. I mean, that's the shit I listened to when I was growing up. You know, my mom listened to that kind of music. So I listened
Yeah.
along with my mom. So that's what was really fun about the A through Z album was
Mm,
being able to, go back to the 70s, 80s, 90s kind of
mm,
choruses and melodies. So yeah,
mm.
it's fun
And
singing sometimes.
yeah, it was just something a little different, and it really was a great record.
Thanks, man. It
It,
was fun.
and now, Long Day Good Night, the last Fates Warning record in 2020, kind of almost felt like the end of a chapter, at least. Are there any plans to continue with Fates, or is it kind of on a break now?
I think Jim doesn't want to write any more new Fates Warning music,
Mm,
so um, that's that.
mm,
You're not gonna change his mind unless he wants to.
mm,
So I don't think there'll be any more new Fates music. I mean, from my end, of course, I'm willing, and I would love to. I love continuing on with that. But the as far as like touring and things, we still talk about touring, but
mhm,
it's so difficult now with Joey in five different bands, and Bobby's
mm,
now with George Strait, and you know
yeah,
who George Strait is. He's one of the
mhm.
biggest country artists,
Legend, yeah.
and Bobby's his drummer now, and
Yeah,
they do arenas. Like Bobby's
mm,
playing, arenas in the round,
mm, mm,
and that's like Bobby's dream. He's a huge country music
yeah,
fan. When we're on tour, he's always trying to play country music on the tour bus, and we're like, we'll deal with it for like 5 minutes and so. But I mean, I don't hate country music. It's just
yeah,
not my thing.
yeah.
Um, and on the weekends in Texas and San Antonio, he plays in a country band. They do covers. So for him, it's like his dream job, and
Mm,
really difficult for him to get away because George doesn't really do tours. He just kind of throws shows
mhm,
out there. So it's difficult to get Bobby away for more than 2 weeks or something. So we are, um, Jim and I were talking lately about next year is actually the 40th anniversary of Fates. So
yeah.
hopefully, maybe next year we can throw out a few special shows or something and get together. Maybe it won't be a long tour, but at least we can do
Mm.
a few shows here and there. That would be nice. Be good to see everybody again.
Definitely. And kind of along those lines, and getting back to the new record, on two, I mean, it listening to it, there's a real urgency, I think, to those songs. There's a very live feel to some of them. Do you see yourself getting out there and doing a solo tour or a couple of shows here and there to support the record?
I would love to. I really would, man. I
Mhm,
mean, that's the once I listened to the songs, I thought how great it would be to actually play them live.
mhm,
And when we did the first solo album, I mean, I thought about doing shows, but I was, like, I don't know how badly people are going to want to see this kind of thing. But
mhm,
we were lucky enough to have Glenn Harveston invite us to Prague Power, and that was fun to do the one show.
mhm,
Um, it was unfortunate that Craig couldn't go and Tony couldn't make it again. It's a problem working with other musicians. Everyone's
yeah.
busy all the time. But it was a great time, and I was able to sing some of the songs live, and that was a lot of fun. But this one, I would love to hit the road, even if it's opening for somebody or something. But
Mhm,
I want to look into at least doing some shows in Europe, whether it's opening, like I said, or headlining or something. Just a few would be nice. But we'll see. Well, I mean, that if anyone knows a good promoter, hit me up.
we'll put it out there. So the record too, it's out June 9th. And as we've talked about over the past 3 years, you've been so busy with records from Fates Warning, Engine, A through Z, solo. Any idea what comes next for you?
Um, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence right now. There's a few projects that I'm looking at. We'll see. May start doing the next AZ album.
Hmm.
And I just actually I finished another album a few weeks ago. With Jim Matthias, and the two of us wrote some songs, and we made an album out of it. So
Mhm.
that probably won't be out until next year, 2024. But I was busy with that for a while too. So, and that was a lot of fun. It's definitely different. It's not Fate's Warning.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see what people think when it comes out.
Well, we've been spending some time here with Ray Alder. The record is called Two. It's out everywhere on June 9th. It's a fantastic record. Ray, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. It's been a pleasure getting to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much.
And best of luck with the record, and hopefully we can catch you soon on the road.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care,
Yeah,
man.
thank you. Yeah.